467,000 more people lost their jobs in June, driving the unemployment rate up to a 26-year high of 9.5%. Since the recession started in December 2007, the economy has lost a whopping 6.5 million jobs. Here's Lynn Tilton. She's the president and CEO of Patriarch Partners. Lenny, thanks for joining us. They said, let's talk unemployment situation. I said, I know just the person to talk to, Lenny. You have your finger on the pulse of what's going on. What's going wrong right now? 9.5% unemployment. That's a big number.
And it's going to rise. The problem is that small and mid-sized companies, where 80% of our workforce is housed, they're all being starved for cash. There's no lending from the banks. There's no hedge fund lending anymore. There are no collateralized debt obligations. They're starving for cash. They're laying people off. They're going into liquidation. It's not going to stop.
Lenny, we're talking trillions of dollars. We're talking backstops, bank loans, TALF, TARP, $1 trillion for PPIP. Why aren't the small businesses getting the money? What's going wrong?
Look, banks were given $13 trillion in spent, lent, guarantees, and commitments. All of it went into the banks to stabilize them. No mandate to lend. Most companies haven't had cash for 12 to 15 months. Revenues have precipitously dropped. They don't want to lend to them. There's no money. There was no mandate to lend. We're in a too big to fail, too small to play environment, and it's going to backfire.
Well, had they earmarked this money for small businesses, would those employment numbers been a little bit better this time?
Absolutely. Look, either we stay out of the way and let people rise up and the entrepreneurs come together and have a new environment and a great purging. But if we're going to choose who we give money to, we've got to go to the heartbeat of America. We've got to have employment. That means we've got to save our small and mid-sized companies.
Lenny, take a look at this chart we have of the unemployment rate. But let's keep on this issue. You have personal experience in this in the area of small business. You buy and sell small business. You turn them around. What's going on in the midsection, really the heartbeat of the American economy?
Look, the reality is we have 73 different companies across 12 industries. Averages $100 to $500 million of revenues. That's the heartbeat of America. I couldn't get lending from outside. If we didn't have our own money, revenues have dropped 20 to 50% across the board, across industries in this country. That means you need to rationalize your expenses. That's the first thing you do is you cut bodies. Then you need capital to start to rebuild your business. You don't have capital, you don't have a business. People lose their jobs, they can't pay their bills. It's the same thing for companies, but we're starving them. Nothing is reaching them.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the car makers. The 9.5% unemployment really doesn't encompass a lot of those people losing their jobs at GM, Chrysler, Ford, and other car companies, right? Is this number going to get worse?
The number's going to get a lot worse. First of all, a lot of people were laid off with severance. You don't start showing up into the numbers until you're on the unemployment line. Second of all, the supply base is now all falling off a cliff. A lot of people held on long enough thinking the car numbers were going to come up. We just saw Lear file for bankruptcy. You're going to see a lot of the suppliers go away. And by the way, some of these guys will come out and will have a chance to recover. But it's the liquidations where we lose employment, we lose know-how, we lose technology forever. The problem is not even how high the rate's going to go, but the fact that we're going to have no place for people to go afterwards. It's the claims that are going to get us. Every great economy's been built on manufacturing. Really, the fall of every empire has been the failure to remember that fundamental fact.
Great point.
We must have a manufacturing economy.
Is there still time? I mean, I think the last number I saw, we spent $53 billion of the $787 billion stimulus package so far. There's a lot of money left. I mean, can we still turn this thing around?
Well, it depends how you go to stimulus. We're all fighting over whether we have to buy American or whether we can buy all the goods overseas. I mean, look. In the end, you've got to get capital immediately into these companies. The only thing we can do at this point is create a public-private investment partnership where the public goes in with the private sector and makes rescue loans. We need to incent people to make rescue loans to industry. If we don't have employment, we don't have an economy. There are no green shoots of recovery here. That is all fundamentals in the financial markets.
Let me turn this a little bit to I think, an area where you and I don't see quite eye to eye on, and it's the unions. I contend that there's really no place for unions in business now. Maybe 50 years ago there was, but now it seems to be stifling business. But is there a place, or should we be looking to move away from the unions?
Look, it really depends. For me, it's never been so much the workers and the unions, but the union leaders who actually aren't worried about feeding their family each day. I've had some great experiences, like in Old Town, Maine, where the unions gave up 20% of their wages so that I would restart a pulp mill and create a biorefinery. I've had very bad experiences where I've actually had to move out of states and take companies elsewhere because based on the demands, no one could make any money. So in the end, we need to have jobs for people. Even if they're at lesser wages, they're better off having jobs than no job.
All right, Lenny, you wrote something. I think you have Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner's ear once in a while. You wrote something to the Treasury. Summarize for us.
Well, look, I've written a lot of things, but my most recent thing is that I really believe that we need the PPIP not to be to buy toxic assets, because that's not going to work. They've already made too many changes, given too much money to the banks to have the banks sell right now, but really to get people like me to put up $80 million while the taxpayer puts up $20 million, leverage it up another $400 million, make rescue loans to industry, create jobs in this country. We must create jobs in this country.
We have to create jobs. How about one thing you really need to talk to him about? The money that comes back from these bank loans and bridge loans and backstops, where's it going to go? I think it's going to the general fund, and I think that's a bad idea.
Look, in the end, if the taxpayer is going to take the risk, that money really needs to come back to the taxpayer in a form. We need to lower certain things so that the taxpayer shares in that, if it goes to tax breaks to something.
I don't remember getting a check in the mail when Goldman Sachs paid back 8 or 10 or 15 or $20 billion. Am I going to see that?
You're not going to see. Look, we're not. In the end, this is going to be net a loss for the taxpayers. That's why allowing people to pay things back early at discounts really doesn't make any sense, because the taxpayer took across-the-board risk. You don't get paid back on some of your portfolio and lose on the rest, but get paid by the big wins on a discount.
All right, Lenny Tilton, CEO of Patriarch Partners, thanks for joining us. Thanks for delaying your trip away just for the Glenn Beck Show. Thanks a lot. All right, thanks. By the way.